Hi, everyone. My name is Femi Shakoya, and I am not on a Euro trip right now.
My name is Josh Alfonso uh, West. I'm reading all the other books in my room. Cook, and I am not a method actor. Absolutely
Good
not.
reference.
Could not be that.
Welcome back to the Parable Worlds podcast. Now we're discussing the audience and rethink elements in our subject film of the moment, J. Kelly. Again, this was recommended by our friend Nicia, and this is the A and the R in our smart outline. So you can listen to the first episode in the trio or the last one for getting the S and the M and the T out of all this stuff. So the first thing we talk about is audience. And with J. Kelly, it's a film about an actor who is having a lot of reflections through the movie. Josh, who do you suggest watches this film?
Yeah. Well, I think something I've started doing with some other guests, and I think we could do it together, is like, who is this film actually potentially good for, given the message, right? And who might it be like, maybe avoid it based on some stuff. One that's a challenge that our usual recommendation of a story is based on like, oh, they say the F word, so I can't do that. But more potentially on people's sensitivities and things that could be triggering or just uncomfortable to a level that like kind of removes the enjoyment, takes away from the process we're encouraging, which is getting into the story and helping God work through the media stories we engage to challenge us. So with that in mind, I think our usual groups we talk about are families with kids, friends, and evangelistically to spark combos.
Yeah.
I think families with older kids, specifically kids who are like seniors in high school, this could be a really great movie. The reason is given what we were just talking about in the previous chunk in the message, that I think this could be a movie to really open up kids, to especially students, to think about the future and like what they want and the idea of cost to pursue what they want. I know even just in my experience, like being a teacher and having been a student, it can be really disorienting when there's like things that you feel like you really want to pursue something, but maybe one thing you want to pursue is because of familial or societal or just cultural pressures around you versus maybe like something that God is calling you to do, and those two things clashing or whatever. And just like spending time in trusted community, like digging through those things and like not being afraid to challenge them. And I think this could be a movie to kind of help expand kids' imagination of like, this is kind of where you could get to in life depending on what you do and where you live. Friends, I think this can be a great one, especially like, I don't want to say like older friends, but friends who are like in careers and kind of thinking about planning for the future, and similar concept of just that evangelistically too, is just getting people thinking about where their decisions will go. So that would be kind of my overall recommendation, is for anyone who's feeling like, man, I just like wonder sometimes about this thing I said no to that could have led to this like really big thing, or this like dream I have, and like, should I have given up on it or should I keep it going? And I think this could be a really good movie to kind of stir up some stuff and process that. There is a lot of like parental trauma kind of stuff going on in this. Not anything crazy with like abuse or stuff, but just like we mentioned with the dynamic between Jay and his daughter Jessica, like that could be touchy.
Yeah.
Jay and his dad could be touchy. Like the whole movie is kind of about parental abandonment in a way, or at least like distance. So if that's a struggle for you, and seeing that kind of story could be like unsettling and not in a way that helps you process it, but actually makes it feel worse. Maybe pass on this one, but overall content wise, like not crazy in terms of the stuff that's in it. So I think that's one of its strengths. But
Yeah.
anything you would add to those clusters?
No, I was going to do the same thing you did around like people who are about to enter into a transition or thinking about the transition, and people who have potential trauma around something like this. So not much to add there. I think as a like an adjacent point of in thinking about the audience of this movie, the first thing I think of is who would I like think is moved by the story of this movie, like who sees themselves as this person who has pursued such good and achieved even in that vein a lot. And I think there are a good number of strong high school students, strong high school college students, people in the midst of career transition who feel like, hey, there's this stuff behind me, but I'm not done and I still have this stuff to do. And kids see themselves in that seat. That helps a lot with me thinking about an audience. And then this is an addition, so not quite fully no, but like the biblical idea of what does it mean to be a success is also
Yeah.
like anybody who likes that type of conversation philosophically of like what is success, what does it mean, what does a good life look like, and is willing to really play with that is something I think somebody would enjoy in that personality, and for you to better define and refine what those categories look like.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, with that, not to steal the wheel, but we're jumping into our rethink. And the reason I'm stealing the wheel is because I actually have a bone to pick with this movie. So I am all about, especially like when I'm writing my own stuff and my own stories, I'm very big on the concept of not pulling your punch or like being willing to twist the knife is like the term that I would use. And so what I mean by that is sometimes like if you have an emotional moment or something that could land in a very specific way, sometimes, and I think this is one of the reasons I have a big critique or criticism towards Christian film, is like it feels like someone's winding up for like a haymaker and they're about to just knock you out with something to the heart, and they just kind of like flick you at the end and you're like, what? Like, what was that? Not that bad in this scenario, but I was very surprised that they chose to have Ron go with Jay to the show. And I'll tell you why that bothered me.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Okay. I'm going to tell you why that bothered me.
Yeah.
The reason it bothered me is because of all the characters in the show who I felt like were a foil to who Jay was, it was Ron. And I felt like what they were setting up the whole movie was this emotional moment where you see that like Ron is kind of riding this line between being full on Jay Kelly style, like, oh my gosh, my family and my marriage is going to fall apart any second if I don't do certain things or like change how I'm living. Or I need to just like cut it with this dude who really isn't even in it anymore and who's kind of losing himself. And I just need to go love my kids. Right. And so the fact that they had him at the end when he's about to leave, like he's like, it's not like, oh, he's in the hotel and then, Jay finds him and he's like, I really need you, buddy. Like he's literally getting in the taxi and he's talking to Jay at a distance, and Jay somehow convinces him to come back and do all this thing. And why, just adding into it, this is after other staff members of Jay have left. This is after his daughter Jessica told him, no, I'm not coming to this stupid show. This is after his dad is sick and is,
And
left. And I kind of wanted, for the sake of the message of the movie, to be, like I said, that knife twist or that gut punch. I wanted Ron to leave too, for two reasons. One, because I think that's how they were setting it up in terms of everything that they stacked. And two, because I think that would have made Jay asking for a do-over so much more powerful at the end, because literally everyone that was around him has left him because of the choices that he's made, because of his blinders about his own career and his own path that have been on clearly from this whole journey, to the point that when he starts imagining all these other people in the crowd watching his moments, I feel like that makes it even more sad that it's like they're not really even there. They just know of the achievement. And
Does that
he's
change the message to you?
I think it does, in terms of it adding maybe a different like path that we could go. Because part of me is like, I would love to talk about the idea of like Ron as a character who really does seem overall like he could be an amazing dad, right? Like he's calling his daughter about the tennis tournament and he's
Yeah.
like checking in and like he's trying to be there and he's, like whatever. And he's like, you know, calling his wife and like being connected to her. But I feel like because he stayed, it made me frustrated with him as a person and as a character. So like, I mean, maybe that's where I could say like that would be a message I would add in, and where the message could diverge is like this idea of, because there's the language of like friendship and like, are Ron and Jay really friends, or are they like employee employer kind of relationship? And so I think if Ron had left, it kind of creates a message of like, when is it okay to just kind of look at this kind of relationship or friendship and be like, you're actually pulling me away from the good work that I have to do, or from good responsibilities that I should have. And instead, I feel like we have a message that's kind of encouraging a more warning, which is like, don't get pulled in like by someone who's pulling you away from good work and good responsibilities. So that's my rant.
I 100% understand anybody who feels that way, because, and it's not like any type of condescension at all, because like that is how I feel, right? Of like, if I've been there and that's what you tell me like the night before, I'm like, screw you. Like, like I'm gone. I'm not coming back. I think that as a believer and as somebody who's trying to overthink about this,
Sure. Yeah.
I think of like, is it consistent with Ron's character? And I'm like, yeah, it's sort of consistent with his character that he shows. Is it professionally something he should do? Probably. Like, you want to show yourself with your client if you want to get new clients, especially if you're about to lose one that's up and coming. So like those things made it realistic. I think it's an immense amount of grace that was underplayed. That was my issue with it. Is like it didn't show the emotional weight of the grace shown. I feel like that moment should have just been more of an emotional ask of an apology.
Yeah.
And more of an emotional response of like, I'm saying yes, but you better know that I'm angry. I'm livid at you. This will never happen again in our relationship. Like, I feel like that moment should have been more intense, so that when they sit down together, you feel like, okay, at least it was addressed a little bit more. It wasn't a simple, hey, I'm sorry, I think we're friends, come back. Okay. Like, it felt, and I think that's why people got, like, who didn't like that part. Along with part of my own self who didn't like that. Like, that's what I thought was missing. That's where I thought the punch was pulled. I don't think it was the leaving, because it showed grace for somebody who thought they were doing a good thing. Of like, no, you didn't do a good thing. You abandoned a lot of people for the sake of one good thing, of one potentially good thing. But there's somebody who still has grace for you when everybody else is gone. You know, your daughters are going to be gone. You're going to be alone. You're at the sort of towards the end of your career. And this person who you just insulted, as we slap God in the face with our sin all the time, is like, you're wrong for that. You're wrong for that. But I'll show up for you because I put time into you. I do care about you. I think we both agree that there was a miss a little bit there, though, at the end, that didn't feel like a great emotional payoff, which was, again, really sad, to your point about the last line, breaking the fourth wall and calling back to the beginning of the movie. I understood where it hit, but it didn't feel, with Ron there, it didn't feel the same as I wanted it to feel. I think it would have been a cool path if they had that moment, like a big fight moment in the driveway. And instead of going to Jay saying, can I go again? It goes to Jay and then pans to Ron. And Ron looks at the camera and says, can I go again? In that good answer, in that Adam Sandler voice.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would have been cool, because it shows that both of them are on this sort of journey of like, man, I don't get a do-over of this.
Yeah.
right? Like
Well,
in
even I'm gonna stick my flag in the sand. This might just be like an analysis pod. No, I want to talk about other questions, but
yeah, it's cool.
so like the reason I think it would be more powerful if Ron is not in the room is because literally, if you think about the way that that's shot, like it's George Clooney as Jay Kelly talking to the camera.
Hmm.
That's literally the only person he can talk to, right?
Hmm.
Versus like in that moment, like you said, because like Ron's like to the
Oh
side
yeah,
of
he
him,
could have
it's
looked
kind of
at
like,
Ron. He could have
yeah,
said,
it's
"Can
like
I
he
go
could
get
look
some
to
Ron?"
Ron and like nodded to, like made a comment to him or something. But I think the fact that he's there, it rips away the weight of like Jay really has had this very veneer of a life of happiness and like status, and we have all these visuals of like all these people who like flock to him when he goes on a train and like whatever, and
Mhm.
they care about all this the work he's done, but then there's these other people who actually are trying to care about him, the person, but because he's so caught up in what he's trying to do and he's caught up in his own thing and his image and whatever, he just has no time or attention for them. And so I think there's part of me that it's like I was not sympathetic to Jay at the end of the movie.
Th- I
And
think
I
that's
think
what. Yeah.
that's what's getting me is the movie was not set up, in my opinion,
Hmm.
to make us sympathetic for Jay. It was set up to see this is the life, this is where you get, and these are the regrets that follow when this is how you live. And so I
I think
think
yeah.
Ron's like weird codependent like friendship, kind of clinging on, being like, oh no, but we are friends. Like it's like,
Hmm.
nah, like that. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I think that's why I wanted to fight there. The reason why I'm okay with it, and this might just be me being sympathetic to all of the actors, like
Mm-hmm.
Emily Mortimer, Laura Dern, like what's his name, Patrick Wilson, all of the actors and actresses who were in the film. I think when they look back, that scene of the montage
Mm-hmm.
was the like, hey, we're still being sympathetic to this character because like you and I know who George Clooney is.
Mm-hmm.
We can probably both name a list of his movies that were entertaining. At least Ocean's 11, 12, and 13, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, now he's the
it,
Grubhub guy, right? Grubhub
you know,
will
he
eat the
was. Yeah,
feast.
so, like, all of these things that he has done have had an impact. And I think that's the other thing that especially when he was doing the bike chase and of the guy who was out of his mind a little bit, you realize like sometimes you're just playing a role. Like there's some stars who I don't know if I know them really well because they're just playing a role. Will Ferrell, I don't know anything about Will Ferrell because he's just sort of playing his public persona. And I think that there is something true to the fact that even if Ron isn't there, there's a room full of people who love him, like without knowing him. And having one person who sort of knows you, I don't know, think makes up for the fact that you realize, like, man, there's only one person of all the people of my family, of all the people who I worked with, of all the people like I want to go. I think that's where it's sort of setting up the. I don't think it takes away from the story as much as like you could have an emotional peak or pit there,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that the walkout potentially could distract from the montage. If you have Ron
Yeah.
walk out and he's alone, the montage scene doesn't get any focus. It's just sort of him being lonely, and you sort of just zoom out of him. I think I would make the directorial decision to start on him looking at his montage and then just zoom out, and he's in this sea of people who don't know him. And then it fades to black, and he says, I can I go again?" And like that's a different feeling.
Yeah.
But also for our listeners, like this is the imagination like we think that you should also have with scripture for the things that are not said. For the things that are said, stay with the word, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like think about a young boy walking down to the valley of Elah to meet this giant and like what the giant's saying and how it's interpreted. Um People are like, "Oh, David was this small little boy." like Saul's not an idiot. Saul's not
Mhm.
just gonna be like, hey, let me put me being the tallest and Travis Benjamin stuff on
Yeah,
a little
fifth
book.
grader out in
You know, like
the
you're like,
middle of
no, he's
this.
not that dumb.
Yeah.
David wasn't it was just he was small for his height.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're tall, but like you could probably wear this stuff. Will that work for you? And he's like, I'm just not used to it. It's not like this doesn't fit. It's like, I mean, I could put it on. I'm just not used to it. This is not what I do. And I think the imagination that we're having right now, even about this moment, speaks to like biblical moments that are supposed to be have more gravitas than
Mhm.
people imagine, because they're thinking about it cinematically in a way that's really smooth with the wording, instead of going, no, really think about what's happening right here.
Mhm.
Really picture it and see that it is actually has more gravitas than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's cool when like when we both see that moment and go, something
Something's not right.
something could have been different here, and we
Yeah.
both know it. Like, I really wish there was a flashback during the montage to all the like times of Ron and Jay being younger, and all the times Ron was there, because
Mhm.
that would have made it, even with their decision they went with him being there, for Jay to be watching all of his things and seeing in his own mind how Ron was always there. And then again, instead of looking to the camera, looking sort of across to Ron and whispering in his ear, and the camera zooming into his like mouth near his ear, going like, hey, Ron, can I go again? Or
Mhm.
can I get another one? I'd like to go again. Like, that would make it sort of sweet of, hey, I do see you. I do remember you. You were
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
You have been here this entire time. Like, that could have been, like, there's so many ways you could have done it. But we both feel like, there was something
Just
missed.
didn't swing hard enough. Well, to that imagination idea, and to what you were saying about the imagination we can have with some of the unspecified things of Scripture, I want to come back to this idea we were talking about of imagining the consequences of our decisions and like our legacy and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because I've been kind of like working on, like, I'm trying to build some better discipline, because that's like one of the things I really struggle with, is being consistent in things and whatever. Like, I tend to be like a binge doer or a binge consumer. Like, I'm not really like, I was joking with Gloria, like, I am not a like 75% every day. I'm like 200% Monday, and then like nothing for like 3 days. Like, that's kind of my math. I don't even think that math works, but whatever. And so, what do you think it looks like for us as Christ followers to have, we'll say, godly ambition to a certain degree, but to maybe practice and use our imagination with connection to the Spirit to rethink or to think about our goals or like what we're pursuing, especially in this era of there's anything you can do, anything you want to do, you can basically do or figure out or get the information to do. Like, we're not in an era of, well, I don't really know how I would even make X or produce Y or develop Z.
Just asking AI.
It's just ask or pay or study or watch or whatever, and like you can do it. So in this sea of infinite and growing options, what do you think it looks like for us to use our imagination to envision the trajectory of our life without being idolatrous about it and like controlling, but actually to be like, where maybe has God designed me to not thrive if that's the cost or that's the direction?
Ask it one more time, because I think I have a path that I'm thinking of. But
Sure. I
wanna make
tweaked
sure
it a little bit at the
Yeah.
end, and how I phrased it. Essentially, like, maybe I'll offer like where I'm going a little bit. What I'm
Yeah.
thinking is, like, I think sometimes we're, to some of our other parts of this discussion, kind of bringing it to the present, we're taught to think about our goals in terms of like, what do you want and how do you get there and like, what should you do? But I don't know that I've ever heard some goal guru tell someone the first question you should ask is not how to get there, but is it worth getting? And what is it going to cost you to get it? Except for maybe Jesus. Jesus, even in his own mission, was actually like,
Count the cost.
if you're going to follow me, like, count the cost. Um, and
Foreshadowing.
so I think that's kind of what's in my mind right now is we are, we were talking about the manosphere, we're talking about outcomes and goals and legacy and all this stuff. And I feel like that's something that we have become more convinced of than we should be, that it's something we can control and like manifest
Yeah.
is maybe the word I would use. So as believers, I think maybe this is how I would ask the question. How do we work within the Spirit to discern whether something we want is actually a pursuit God would have for us based on how he's designed us, or maybe is a pursuit that is going to cost more of us than we want to pay?
Okay. Yes. I have two things that I think of when I'm thinking in my right mind and things are calm and I don't have somebody pulling on my leg and something on the stove and
Yeah, I
someplace we're
gotcha.
supposed to be. Is if I believe that my place in heaven and community with God is secure, how would I do this thing?
Interesting.
If I believe
Yep.
that it's secure, how would I do this thing? A lot of times there's just so much less pressure.
Mhm.
And then I just think about how good it is, how can I seek the good? How can I the value? Like working into the Lord was confusing to me until I was like, if I believe that God has already saved me, how do I want to serve these people at my job? And versus how can I like work? Because like when you work for God, people are like, I gotta work hard on God. I'm like, if your place is already secure, there's nothing you can do because the blood of Christ already covers you. Now, how do you do this job? I'm like, well, I'm thinking of all the people now. This person needs this. This person needs this. This person needs this. There's how much time. Like it's different. I don't feel the pressure. I'm like, oh, how can I help these people? That's one. That's one question. The second question I think is asking is straight out of Matthew 6, but like seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. I'm like, is the thing and the way my time is set up and all my priorities in pursuit of God's kingdom and his righteousness? If it is, great. If not, I think the practical thing to do would be looking at the way I spend my time and going through it and going, oh, of all the things I'm doing that are serving, not serving, that are balancing, that are my roles, that are my offices and my family, are the responsibilities. When I take all these things together, does God look glorified from this? Does the kingdom look like it's being elevated from this? And if not, moving and chopping and cutting, moving my schedule around because I still have the same number of hours in a day. And I think most people would benefit from this is not straight out of the Bible, but it is a biblical concept of rhythms of, do I have a rhythm every day to rest, not just so I don't do anything, but to reset? Do I have a rhythm of good sleep? Do I have a rhythm of good crying? Do I have a rhythm of a place where I can be angry? So that in the day, if I'm angry, I don't necessarily have an outburst of anger. I know in 4 days, there's a moment that I'll get to reflect on my anger and feel all of it in a really good protected space where nobody is getting expressed to them in a way that is harmful. And that by the time I'm done with that process of anger, I might have a time where I schedule to a person, be like, with candor and kindness and gentleness, I can say, this thing made me ticked off. And I really need to talk to you about, this is what it is. This is what we need to do. This is where I think we need to lay it. Like, I don't have the seething rage anymore because I have a rhythm once a month where I think about the things that made me angry and I process them, or once a week where I think about all the things that are making me sad about the world or the state of the world or myself. But if we don't have those rhythms, we're sort of asking ourselves without asking ourselves, when is this going to happen? And I think if my place is secure in God, like, then I make rhythms so that everything is sort of pointed in that way. Right. And if I'm seeking his kingdom first, I make rhythms where any growth that he gives me or anything he takes away from me is still ordered towards his glory. And so those two questions, I think, help reorder what I should practically do, which is plan my rhythms towards that end. Like, and so for Jay in the movie, it's the are you ordered effectively towards what your actual goal is? And it was never I'm already secure. Right?
Mhm.
What am I going to do now that I'm already secure? It was, what am I going to do to get the next thing that I want? And similar, I think, with is this seeking the righteousness of God? It's like, oh no, it's just, another role, another whatever. Does that feel somewhat applicable to the question?
Yeah, it does. I think that's actually almost like super focused on the applicable side because, when I think of like, to your point, the rhythms, like that's something I've been doing is like, okay, if I say that I want to write more stories and finish them, and if I say that I want to understand the word more and have a closer relationship with God in terms of like just getting in his space and whatever and sitting and slowing down and like not cutting it out of my day, like that's a rhythm to go after a goal that I say that I want, right? I think maybe one part of it, and this is maybe more of like an emotional side or even just a like self-reflection side, is like wrestling with those things that we really, really want. This kind of comes back to the idea of like, I want the idea of the thing, not the cost to get the thing. Is like, I've noticed for myself that I really struggle with business content. Like that's one of those things that I've kind of had to cut out of my life, just bar none. Even though it's super helpful and probably would be beneficial for me and what we're trying to do in growing our platform, but the reason is because whenever I engage or consume any of it, I just constantly feel like anxious and behind and like I'm not doing enough. And so then when I think about this idea of like, well, what should I be pursuing? And like, is that even something that God would have me pursue and do? I think I start adding to my list more things that actually need to be added. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I think that's the angle that I'm the practical side, I think, to answer that question is to really sit with what do I actually want, and have I put those things before God, and then open myself up to actually have him say like that right there, dog, you don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
Or am I kind of swatting his hand away and being like, no, like that one stays. That one's going to be great. Like that one's going gangbusters. Like you just don't know it yet.
A lot of people should do the same thing with business stuff. I like listening to it because I hear all of the different ideas of ways you can do things. But to the same point, if I feel like I'm supposed to do them, then that versus they're just an option of something, then it feels bad. And I think the same thing could be said for my wife. Like hearing advice from people, like of what to do, feels like there's a criticism there, like an inherent criticism of like you should already be doing this. Versus I'm like, oh no, that's just an option. You don't have to do that. Like you don't have to do that at all. And I think that that's a temperamental thing, and also my own wounds protect me from some of that, of realizing like you can't do everything. But I think that where it ties into both of us is we're trying to answer that question of like, why are we doing this? We're not doing this to get rich, right? We're not talking with you or to each other to get rich. If we were, we would probably be doing something that's a little bit more easy to monetize.
Right. No, right? Guys, you just don't understand. Movie podcasts are going to go gangbusters one of these days. Like,
especially for Christians who want to make everything as clean as possible.
Oh, yeah. Any day now.
It's not about that. It's like I have a real passion for conversation around using the parables of the modern day to help people think more about who God is. If this goes gangbusters, great. I still feel that. Like I still feel that that's not going to change. Right. If I get more money, it'll just give me more time to do that. Right. But it's not that that's my goal. And I think that the modern society, to the outcome point, is thinking of what's the outcome I get if I do the behavior, not do I like the behavior or not.
Yeah.
Right. Of I want to get into real estate. Why? Because real estate can make me a lot of money. Wait, shouldn't you get into real estate because you like providing people good, stable housing that they can trust? No. I just want to make a lot of money. Okay, well, maybe you shouldn't get into real estate.
Right.
It's like, well, I want to flip cars. Do you like cars? No, but I just saw that you could make like 70% on your investment in 2 months. Like, why wouldn't I do that? Do you actually like cars though?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want to get into the private jet business because I see this dude on TikTok who's always talking to really, really rich people and getting them on their flights and solving their problems. He makes a lot of money. I'm like, but do you actually like aviation? Do you actually like knowing all the airports in the world? Do you actually like working with people like that? Do you like being on call at 2 a.m. if they need you? I think people don't ask those questions when they think of the outcome. And to our point about like asking what is going to seek God's righteousness, is being up at 2 a.m. for somebody going to be the righteousness? If I love it, maybe it is. If I'm just doing it for the money, it's immediately a no, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think people should ask those questions and then look at the options of, if you really like art, do you want to work for somebody? Like, well, I like the idea of being my own boss. Okay, idea of being your own boss versus being your own boss is two separate things.
Let
Do
me
you
tell
want to
you.
work for somebody? Do
Dog,
you
yep.
really want to work for someone?
Yep.
I was like, well, why would I work for someone? Because you would learn a lot. It would be stable. It would be stable income. But like, then I'm not my own boss. I'm like, what does being your own boss have to do with you want to draw? You know, you can't, if you're on your own boss, you can't just draw.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we had the conversation a few years ago where I was like, what do you see your future day, like every single day doing?
Mm-hmm.
And it was more creative. And I was like, okay, dude, like if it's more creative stuff, like you're not going to be like a full-time CEO. You're going to be like a founder creative, but you're not going to be a CEO because they have to do all the stuff you don't want to do.
Yep.
And same
Send
with me,
out
like
W-9s and
right,
taxes, and oh yeah.
Talk
all
about
that
the
stuff.
trajectory of your investments, meet with a board. Like you can't be in the room, you can't be drawing the character, you can't be talking about how do you want the horns or the cyberpunk thing or a moment to not pull a punch, you know. You can't do that as well. So like as we see Jay Kelly and as we think about this as Christians, part of the conversation we're having is in your love of something, like defined by God, by your temperament, like who you are. Again, like we mentioned in another podcast, removing the things that God loves you to remove. Lay those down at his feet and go like, that's not a part of who you are. When you take all those things away, pursue that thing well, and it won't feel like a burden of, man, I got all these things to do, because you'll be doing it with a secure spot in eternity. And you'll be doing it seeking his righteousness. I want to do a shout out to a guy, Randall Goodgame, and the Slugs and Bugs team, because our kids listen to that stuff. And the guy just makes songs with scripture for kids and has these puppets for kids, right? It's like a Christian Sesame Street, right? I don't know if I could, with a straight face, walk into a room and ask people to give me money to make puppets for a puppet show.
Dude, no.
You know, like I can do it. And he's done it. But he always just seems level-headed, excited to do the show. Does live concerts, has used the Bible to write these songs that we sing to help our kids remember biblical truth. And that's not like, to use our manosphere conversation, it's not manly, but what a service. And he loves music and he loves kids and he loves the show. Like, hopefully there's no scandal that comes out of him later, you know? So like, I'm put that out there. Like, I know people are sinful, but hopefully there's no scandal.
Yeah.
But that's a service thing. He's not doing it for money, you know? Or all the people who do Christian music instead of doing secular music, you know? Like when they could just make that easy cash grab. They're like, you know, I'm gonna make less money and be clean. So shout out to all the people who do that. It's hard, but I think that's the counting the cost, which we'll talk about briefly, because I think we took some time from our theology for this part.
Yep.
We'll talk about briefly, but yeah, it's a lot to discuss. For people who want to discuss Jay Kelly.
Definitely.
So, thanks everyone.
See you in the next one.